name is Sviland. I am a dietitian here at Georgetown. My specialty is pediatrics, and I do work with some adults, so this isn't a foreign concept to me. I do diabetic educations here for adults and pediatrics, so feel free to ask questions as we go along the way, or you guys can wait until the end. There is a separate slide, as you guys have all looked through the handouts that I gave you, that says questions, so if you want to hold it till then, you are more than welcome to, or if we're going along and you see something that doesn't make sense, please feel free to ask as we go along. First thing I want to know is, what are you all's thoughts about diabetes and nutrition? Some common questions are, people think that they can no longer have sweets, they have to eat differently than they did before, or the main thing that comes up is, oh no, I can never eat regular ice cream again. And I just want you guys to know that these are common questions that come up, and I'm here to try to dispel some of these myths. One question I do want to get out of the way is, how many of you guys have had nutrition education for diabetes before? If you want to raise your hand. Pretty much all of you. So hopefully this will all be review for you, and maybe we can re-educate you if you guys have forgotten some things. Why should we learn about food with diabetes? When a lot of our diabetes and nutrition, they go hand in hand. And if you're on insulin, our carbohydrate counting is the main thing that we need to learn, because the insulin is the most important thing to learn. Our insulin balances out our carbohydrate, and we need to keep our carbs consistent throughout the day, because our insulin is based upon our carbohydrate intake. So that is very important. Our overall health can be improved by our nutrition, so we should learn about food for that aspect. Our blood fats and cholesterol should be kept at desired levels to help improve our overall health as well. We want, for kids, it helps to obtain normal growth and development, and we want to avoid the long-term complications. So we want to learn about food to avoid those things. The building blocks of food are carbohydrates, is the most important thing with diabetes, of course. And we also have proteins, and then fats. Those are the three main components of food. So what is going to affect your blood sugar the most out of these three things? You guys can shout it out. Carbohydrates. Carbohydrates, that's right. So our carbohydrates are carbs. They have the greatest effect on blood sugar, as you guys know. And our blood sugar peaks from the carbs that we eat. And it's going to take about 1 to 1.5 hours to get that peak effect, and for the blood sugar for the carbs to be broken down. And liquids, of course, are broken down quicker. So anytime we're having a hypoglycemic episode, we're going to, of course, drink a liquid first to get a quicker rise in our blood sugar. And the role of carbohydrates in our body is for energy. Foods that contain carbohydrates: grains, breads, pasta, cereal, popcorn, chips, starchy vegetables like potatoes, corn, peas, non-starchy vegetables, lettuce, broccoli, tomatoes, peppers, carrots, fruits, strawberries, things like that, legumes, beans, peas, lentils, dairy products, everything pretty much except for cheese and sweets. Who doesn't love sweets? Yes, ma'am?
Lettuce has carbohydrates?
It does have a little. Pretty much all vegetables, even though it's non-starchy. If you remember, I don't know if you're diabetic, if you consume a lot of non-starchy vegetables, if you consume too much of it, you will have to start counting it after a while in your diabetic meal plan. So even if it's a small portion, if you consume 3 cups of lettuce, then you will have to count it as a carbohydrate serving. I don't know how many of us are consuming 3 cups of lettuce in one sitting, because that will tend to be a lot and fill you up, but you will have to count it in your carbohydrate meal plan after a while. So even though it's a non-starchy vegetable, you can have it and it won't affect your blood sugar in small portions, but it does contain some carbohydrate. Does cooking what?
I mean, if.
Like a non-starchy vegetable?
Right, with the lettuce, the broccoli, the tomatoes, the peppers, cook with it there.
It just affects the serving size.
Just the
Yes. So like 1 cup of cooked non-starchy vegetable, or half a cup of cooked, or 1 cup of raw. So even though it doesn't affect the carbohydrate content, it just affects the serving size. Because if you notice, like 1 cup of cooked broccoli is a lot. 1 cup of cooked is going to be a lot more than 1 cup of raw. So you would be like half a cup of cooked is the same as 1 cup of raw. Does that make sense? So you're still getting the same amount of carbohydrate content. It's just a different serving size. So you would have to count it differently in your meal plan. Any other questions on that one? The absorption rate faster when it's cooked? That I don't know. That I would have to ask. But it still counts in your meal plan. Anything else? Okay, sorry. Didn't know that was going to confuse everybody so much. Okay, carbohydrates in your blood sugar. Now, this one shouldn't be as confusing now that we just went over everything in the last slide. You'll get a slower rise and a faster rise in your blood sugar depending on what it is. Fruits with edible skin versus without an edible skin. That I think we all know. That has to do with the fiber content of fruits. If you are eating the skin of an apple, it's got more fiber versus something without a skin, such as a banana or juice. No sugar added, plain milk versus chocolate milk. It does have a little bit higher sugar, so it will make your blood sugar go up faster. Whole wheat bread has more fiber in it, so therefore it's going to make your blood sugar go up slower than a white bread. Any questions on that? Pretty self-explanatory. We all know those things. Protein foods. Protein foods, while it doesn't really impact your blood sugar as much as carbohydrate, we all need protein. Protein is good for your body. It helps build muscle, and over time, it will be converted into sugar and glucose in your body. We all need it, and it's good for you. It helps you build muscle and bones, and it helps you feel full. I don't know about you guys, but if I don't have a little bit of protein with my breakfast, I'm going to be very hungry very quickly in the morning. I need my milk with my breakfast because it does have some protein in it. And if I don't have cereal with breakfast, I'm going to be putting peanut butter on toast, or I'm going to be having some cheese on my toast. Something like that. A little bit of protein will help you feel fuller longer. The same with a bedtime snack. A lot of people who have diabetes have a bedtime snack before they go to bed because it helps your blood sugar. It helps you feel full longer, and it helps your blood sugar stay up a little bit longer. Foods that have protein. We always say if it walked, swam, or flew before it got to you, then that means it has protein in it. Fish, chicken, beef, eggs, things like that. Milk, yogurt, and cheese also has protein in it. Things that can't walk but still have protein, nuts and peanut butter, and also beans. Fat. We all need a little bit of fat in our diet. I know everybody says fat is bad for you. As a dietitian, I'm not going to tell you fat is bad. Fat is a good thing. Personally, I like things that have fat. And if I don't have fat-free foods, don't taste very good. I'm going to tell you that from experience. I refuse to eat fat-free foods. They don't taste good at all. Fat-free mayonnaise, I'll eat light. I won't eat fat-free. I don't know if you guys have ever had fat-free mayonnaise. Personally, not a big fan of it. So choose the light versus the low fat. Low fat, the fat-free usually means higher carbohydrates for those who have diabetes as well. So fat will not affect your blood sugar as much as carbohydrate, but after time it is converted to sugar in your body. It is a source of energy, and it is a higher source of energy than carbohydrate. But we do want to follow a low-fat diet, and for those people who do have diabetes, because it does have long-term implications for our cardiovascular health. And for those people who have diabetes, you should know that I'm getting tongue-tied. Those people who have diabetes can have an increased chance of having cardiovascular disease in the long run. So that's why we recommend following a low-fat diet. Types of fat. We have healthy fats and not so healthy fats. The monounsaturated and polyunsaturated fats are the ones that we recommend following. And I do have handouts on trans fats up here for you guys if you would like one that I can pass out at the end of the talk. Also, the not so healthy fats are the saturated fat and the trans fats. And I know that there's been a lot of talk about the trans fats and hydrogenated fats on the news within the past 2 years, so I'm sure you guys have been inundated with materials on that. Saturated fats are a lot of things that are fried, and they go back and forth on whether you should do the fried foods. Every so often, I know we all need a little bit of treats, so okay, if you need to treat yourself, but try and stay away from them as much as possible. How many people carb count? So everybody know, for those people who carb count, you know how many carbs you're supposed to have per day. For carb counting basics, everybody has a meal plan that they should be following if you're counting carbohydrates. And for each person, the number of carbs that they follow varies. And I can't tell you, for those of you who don't have a carb counting meal plan, I can't tell you what should be appropriate for you, because what is appropriate for me may not be appropriate for you, may not be appropriate for you, because we're all different sizes and we all have different amounts that we need based on insulin, based on our activity level, based on calorie needs. So every person is different and every meal plan is different, so you need to go based on what the dietitian recommends. So that being said, follow the plan. But the carbohydrate that is set for you should be followed on a daily basis. And it shouldn't really be adjusted very much, because the amount of carbohydrates that is set is chosen based on the insulin that you're on, based on the medications that you're on, or to prevent you from getting on medication or insulin. And that is why it's very important to follow the number of carbs that are set for you. I personally, while I don't have diabetes, do follow somewhat of a carb counting meal plan, because I know I get hypoglycemic if I don't take in a certain number of carbohydrates per day. And I don't feel well, and it's not a pretty sight. So I do actually count carbohydrates even though I am not diabetic. So that being said, know where the carbohydrates are. So consistent meals and snacks. I eat 3 meals a day, 2 snacks a day. I definitely eat a snack before I go to bed, and I try and get protein with it. Insulin is set based on what meals and snacks you have. And protein, like I said earlier when I was talking about protein, it's important to have protein with your meals and with your snacks. The dietitian who did your initial meal plan should have gone over that with you guys. And if you should have sliding scale insulin as well, and to adjust for highs and lows. Food labels. How many of you guys know how to read a food label? So you know about the serving size. That's the most important thing, I think, to look at on a food label. Because if you don't know how many servings you're eating on that food label, then it won't do you much good. Servings per container. I'm guilty of eating more than 1 serving when I sit down. Even though I might know that there's 3 servings in that container, I'm guilty of eating more than 1 serving. So, as you're going through a food label, you need to look at the total number of carbohydrates, because that's what's going to affect your blood sugar, as we've already reviewed. If there's fiber in that food, which has